You want to control your life, but life isn't a science experiment.
From Minos escape rooms.
Be the first to escape our most immersive room yet.
Looks real. It's kind of warming up in here.
Excuse me. We'd like our hit now, please.
Is it getting hotter?
How do we get out of here?
Who would do this?
I want out. Let me out of here now.
Follow the light to greener pastures. Shit. Okay.
To watch another person die.
Two. Yeah, okay.
I'm explaining a film from 2019 titled Escape Room. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. The scene opens with a young man searching for information to help him solve a challenge and leave the room quickly. Eventually, the wall crushed him, and he instantly yelled in pain. A gentle, intelligent student called Zoe was last seen 3 days ago. Then a mysterious black box appears as a present for Jason, a businessman, and Ben, a part-timer. They weren't really interested in the box at first, but they were intrigued after knowing that the box was a puzzle. They attempted opening the box in a variety of ways.
Snap, crackle, and
when they finally succeeded, they discovered that it contained a piece of paper with an invitation to play the game Escape Room. Anyone who completes the game is eligible to receive $10,000 in cash, so they immediately head over to the game's venue, which is in a warehouse, to claim their prize. They also met other participants there, including Mike, a regular guy looking to make some money, Danny, a gamer, and Amanda, a former military. Then Danny made a joke about how he had played over 90 escape room games, but they were all simply online games. They could now play this game firsthand, when before they had only heard of it over the internet, and this made them all incredibly happy. Danny, who is quite skilled at the game, stated that each participant must be skilled at devising exit strategies. Ben leaves to smoke because he is fed up with waiting. Ben was ready to open the door when all of a sudden the doorknob fell off, revealing a heated rotating gadget in its place. Danny announced that the escape room game had begun when he noticed this and instructed everyone to search the room for hints or anything else that would help them leave. A little while later, Mike discovers a book titled 451 Fahrenheit that has a screwdriver inside of it. However, Zoe apparently had a different idea. She apparently believed that the book's title was a code that could be used to open the door, so she immediately typed the code into the device on the door. However, the tool instead produced a space heater, which immediately began to heat the entire room. They searched through the individual who had earlier advised them to wait in a panic for any hints. But when they were able to unlock the door, they discovered that the only thing in the room was a mannequin using the phone. Soon after, all of the room's windows started to abruptly close. Several heaters and blowers that produced hot air then turned on, making the space feel considerably hotter. By chance, Zoe spotted the words "Dr. Wootenyu says please use the coasters at all times," taped to the wall. Zoe then tried to check the coasters on the table and sure enough, it turned out that the coaster was a secret button that had to be pressed simultaneously to open the door to another room. One by one they started entering the room, but because they had to press the button simultaneously, Zoe had an idea, which was to use a glass of water and put it on top of the button. Unfortunately, the water in the gallon ran out just as they were ready to fill the last glass. Fortunately, Ben had a bottle of water on hand and filled the glass with it. Finally, they were able to escape together with the room's explosion. After such bizarre occurrences, Danny believed that the game was played with a realistic premise, causing the players to experience intense stress while playing. They all attempt to quit by waving at the camera, but Amanda believes that this is not a game, thus they must carry on. Now they are in a small wooden house, they have to find the key to open the door and get out. As Ben examined the displays of deer antlers on the wall, he saw that each horn had a hint that pointed in a certain direction. Prior to their collision, Ben recalls singing a song about Rudolph while traveling with his pals. Ben then stated that Rudolph was the crucial word, but he felt weird because he had never disclosed his background to anybody. They eventually succeeded in leaving the wooden home, but they are now even more perplexed as to how they ended themselves in the icy mountains rather than their previous location in a city building. Without their knowledge, cold air suddenly started to enter the room from the ventilation as Danny attempted to move but suddenly collapsed as he hit the wall and the ice started to fracture. They had to search for the next clue to exit the chamber as the hut's door started to close on its own at the same time. They only discovered a jacket, which was obviously interchangeable. In the meantime, Ben, who was strolling, suddenly fell into a hole that was filled with water. Mike then grabbed a fishing rod, but when Jason used it, they discovered that the water beneath the ice was actually incredibly deep. Another piece of information is discovered by Zoe, and she also discovers a magnet. They fish using the magnet until they locate an ice block with a key inside. They then attempted to melt the ice using Ben's lighter, but Danny suddenly slid through the ice and was carried into the water flow and stuck in it as he reached for it. They attempted to free Danny but were unable since he had frozen to death. They then began blaming one another because they believed that one of them was the creator of this bizarre game. But because there was no authentic evidence, in the end they made peace and are now focusing on how to find a way out. Jason quickly grabbed the key as the icebox melted, but when he went to unlock the door, it turned out to be on the other side, so they both had to flee for the other door as the ice began to erupt. They were immediately more perplexed and they realized they were at the wrong place once the lights came on in the room. The chamber abruptly shifted up toward a higher floor before they could discover any further information. Then the sound of the phone returned, followed by the abrupt start of extremely loud music. At the other end of the room, Jason discovered a door without a handle. Ben runs to catch Mike in time to prevent him from falling as Mike notices that the pool ball bearing the number 8 that had been dangling upside down above his head has vanished. While Amanda dangled to obtain the next piece of information, they clung onto each other to prevent falling. Finally, Amanda discovered the next piece of information in the shape of a safe. Zoe discovered a big puzzle board and attempted to unravel it.
They're billiard balls. The yellow stripe. That's a 9.
God damn it!
When they did, they were able to unlock the safe using the password, but for some reason it remained locked. Ben and Mike panicked when the phone rang again and ascended to where Zoe was, but because the shelf was too heavy, it fell, sending Zoe tumbling to the floor and rendering her unconscious. Because the shelf was constantly shifting, it was fortunate that they were able to save themselves before the shelf shifted and crushed them as Jason tried to awaken Zoe. This makes Zoe understand that, given the state of the room, they must type the password backwards. After opening it, Amanda receives an orb that she may use to unlock the door to the following chamber. Unfortunately, Amanda had to jump, pick up the billiard ball, and toss it at Jason as the floor started to move after she had crossed by hanging. Currently, they are working to save Amanda, who is still hanging, but she eventually collapses and passes away since the wire is unable to support her weight. Zoe was horrified by the occurrence, but they had to keep on due of time constraints. They were confused when they arrived at a space that appeared to be a hospital and saw that every room there was an exact replica of the one they had when they were still in the hospital. It turned out that all of them were the only survivors, who had previously had an accident and survived. Only Zoe herself survived an aircraft catastrophe that occurred when she was on vacation in Vietnam. Jason said that he had once perished as his companion perished from hypothermia while they were both stuck in the sea of ice. Ben is also the lone survivor of an automobile accident that occurs when he and his buddies are on vacation. When the mine where he works collapses and murders all of his co-workers, Mike is the sole miner left alive. Then Zoe reads Danny's message, in which he claims that his whole family had perished due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Remember Amanda's message from when she was a soldier in Iraq and it survived an explosion. The game's creator appears to be interested in discovering which accident victim is the lucky. They have just 5 minutes to leave the room, according to a monitor that flashes inside the room a little while later. The deadly gas there would kill them all if they couldn't escape within 5 minutes. The cameras in the room were all broken by Zoe as Mike, Jason, and Ben were trying to solve the problem. Ben attempted to dissuade Zoe from acting, but he argued that if they kept playing the game as it was set up, they would never succeed. They discovered a cardiac shock gadget that they believed could unlock the door to the next chamber when they were successful in solving the problem. Jason then utilized Mike to obtain the device's maximum heart rate, but due to Mike's heart rate being too low, Jason was compelled to use a pacemaker to raise Mike's heart rate. Mike was in serious condition and passed away as a result of being compelled to use the pacemaker non-stop. Ben requested Zoe to accompany him, but she declined, thus Jason was able to open it by placing the pacemaker on himself. Jason then proceeded directly to the next chamber. Jason and Ben made an attempt to unlock a floor-level door within the chamber. When the door was opened, they noticed a sign instructing them to search for an antidote because, according to the message, the doorknob had been poisoned and was causing them to have hallucinations. Jason assaults Ben right away and prepares to take the antidote himself when Ben finally succeeds in getting the antidote. It appears that Jason is a clever individual. Ben fights Jason with all of his power, but Jason manages to break Ben's leg. Ben hits his head against the wall and passes away. After using the remedy, Ben enters the last area and tries to complete the game by himself. While Zoe was still in the room, 3 individuals wearing PPE entered the space and cleaned up all of the bodies there. However, when they discovered that there were oxygen masks, it came out that Zoe was still alive and attacked the individuals right away, causing them to pass out. Then, after taking the people's guns, Zoe swiftly fled down the route used by the first group of individuals. Ben ultimately encounters the individual in charge of the game after finishing it successfully. He clarified that the game's creators were members of the world's elite who enjoyed extreme entertainment, while the game's patrons are individuals with considerable global impact. They begin by wondering if these survivors can complete the full game series. The man suddenly tries to murder Ben since he doesn't want Ben to win the game, but Zoe enters and starts shooting the man right away till they both manage to kill him.
Ben, come on!
He's dead.
After they left, Zoe hurried Ben to the hospital and called the police to report the entire affair. The gaming building had changed into an empty space when the cops arrived, as if nothing had ever happened there. The police departed and dropped the case after Zoe tried to describe all that had happened to them. They believed that she was simply having hallucinations. After 6 months, Ben and Zoe start dating. Their lives are now improving, but Zoe is unable to forget the previous occurrence, so she looks into the whereabouts of the creator of the deadly game. Then, Zoe asks Ben to seek for her. Meanwhile, an airplane that is flying sideways crashes. As the movie comes to a close, it appears like the cabin staff is playing an escape room game, but it turns out that this is only a ruse to welcome Ben and Zoe. Let me know if you ever have done an escape room in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay updated on future videos. Leave a like to support the channel.